Welcome, randos, to our glorious purpose
in the new multiverse of fandom.
And what a multiverse it is, Brian. Welcome in.
Or will be.
Welcome in, randos. We are the fandom at Random Tandem. We've got Brian at Random. We've got Ed at Random. We're back again, and this is week 2 of Marvel Boogaloo. So we had Black Widow last week, which, again, if you've seen the new Black Widow film, I'm sorry.
You can't handle much greatness like that, fandom.
But if you want to hear our opinions on that, hop over to fandom@random.com. All the ways to watch us and listen to us and like and follow.
If you want to hear the right opinion, then listen only to my part.
Don't listen to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
You know what we haven't mentioned in a while I wanted to bring up? Our merch line, man.
That's true. We got merch.
Yeah, we got a lot of good merch, good-looking merch, and we haven't mentioned it in a little bit. Just wanted to bring it up, make sure the people knew that we got some badass hoodies, koozies, T-shirts, baby uniforms, whatever. Go and look it up, fandom@random.com.
Click the store button.
Yes,
so today, randos, as I mentioned, we are burdened with glorious purpose to talk about Loki Season 1. And if you're just getting into the show, you can go back a couple episodes. We actually did a random reaction of episode 1 of Loki, so we're not going to spend too much time on episode 1 today.
Yeah.
But a couple things off the bat, we do want to mention there is going to be spoilers.
Very much.
There will be spoilers, so be prepared. If you have not seen it and you do not want shit to get spoiled, hit the pause button, come back after you've seen this absolutely terrific show.
Yeah.
So, Brian, we're going to get right into our review today, but is there any news, anything else that you want to mention before we get in here? We're not going to do a full news at random, but maybe a couple things.
No, I mean, I mentioned something here just because I thought it was really cool. We were just talking about Nintendo Switch and the portable gaming community. The Steam Deck, not to be confused with the Stream Deck.
I got that going.
Was it out already? Is it out already? No.
The pre-orders just went live.
So yeah, they just went live. You can order 3 different versions. 64 gig, 255, 555, some shit like that. Prices going from $399 to $599.
Yeah. So Valve is entering the handheld market, and they already have. If you're on a PC and you game at all, you use Steam.
Yes.
I mean, Steam
I use Steam.
Yeah. I mean, Steam is the ultimate marketplace if you're on a PC. And they're making a handheld in direct competition with the Nintendo Switch. And it will be interesting because the Steam library is massive.
Let me just tell you that if it works, if the controls, the joysticks, the feel of it are all great, this could wipe out the Switch as far as not wipe it out because you'll always have Nintendo exclusives. But, dude, this is like a portable mini low to mid-tier PC that you can play from, the modern to all classic Steam library games. So that's pretty big in my book.
It's also huge because they're targeting they have an instant, just demographic of... It's anyone that's ever PC gamed that has a Steam library.
Yeah.
And anybody that's used Steam, when they do their sales, like the summer sale, the fall sale, you just go gangbusters buying shit because it's so goddamn cheap. And everybody out there has these giant Steam libraries of games that they've never even cracked because it's too much. It's not an exaggeration. I have hundreds of games in my Steam library.
I'm not there yet, but
yeah. So you mean to tell me now I can buy this handheld console? I think it was what, $400?
$399 for the starting point.
So so you buy the $399 console, but I don't need to buy any games.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're talking Battlefield 2042 that's coming out in October, or even Modern Warfare, you might have a little bit of a struggle on this Steam Deck. But dude, I just bought Batman Arkham Origins for $5. That's a pretty decent looking open world Batman game that you're telling me I could play mobile? I'm sold right there. And then like you said, you can go back and play all your games that you have in your library. It's big. They need to make it work well, but it's big. It shows Control being played on there, Doom, shit, they got everything. So
It's funny because after this news, we won't spend too much more time on this because we'll get into the review. But after this broke, I hopped on, Reddit. I was in the Nintendo subreddit, Nintendo Switch subreddit.
Yeah.
I also hopped on the Xbox subreddit, and there was an article someone linked that it was teased in the last week or so that, again, this is all speculation, rumor, but behind the scenes, Microsoft might be working on a handheld as well.
That doesn't surprise me.
To work in tandem with their Game Pass. So it
That'd
would
be
launch.
big, too.
It would launch and have. They're saying potentially within the next 1 to 2 years. So it would launch and have specs, hardware similar to their Xbox Series S that's already out and just shrunken down, but in a handheld form factor with the full Game Pass access in a handheld. That could be a big winner too.
It could, but at the same time, just like the problem they have with the console now, you can play almost anything new or recent from Xbox on PC. So you have two platforms. That eliminates console sales at least a little bit. Obviously, they've been doing great so far. This is going to be shipping in December 2021. I look at this like I look at the Oculus Quest. This could open up portable gaming forever if it works well right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And if it does, Xbox coming out with one after that, it's just not going to hit the same.
Might not. Well, it remains to be seen. And I'm glad you.
I thought it was cool, so I thought we'd let the community know.
Yeah, it was big news.
Yeah,
it's worth mentioning. All right, let's get into our random review of season 1 of Loki.
Okay.
All right, Loki season 1. So the last of the big 3 Marvel TV shows that were announced at the initial, when Disney Plus said they were doing this, we knew we were getting WandaVision, we knew we were getting Falcon the Winter Soldier, and then Loki was waiting in the wings. And now that we've seen the end of this, it makes perfect sense as to why this was the third one.
Definitely.
The last one
Yep.
to launch before they get into some of their new phase shit.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of jump. We'll go again. We'll follow the timeline, the primary, sacred timeline. And we'll start with episode 1. And we are going to very quickly skim over this because we already talked about this a couple weeks ago in our random reaction video. But pretty much you get the altered variant version of Loki
From first Avengers movie.
from the first Avengers film, and we see him get dragged into the TVA and goes through all that bullshit and meets Agent Mobius, played by Owen Wilson, who did an amazing who did an amazing job in this series, as did Tom Hiddleston, as did most of the actors and actresses. All very good. But ends up, and this was one of the things that I was so nervous about going into this series because I was so afraid that we were going to have to wait until this entire series was done to regain all of the character development that the Loki we knew and loved from the primary MCU movies. We weren't getting that Loki. It's a variant. It's a different Loki. He hasn't experienced that shit. Luckily, they kind of nipped that in the bud right in the first episode.
Luckily, but at the same time, on my end, I consider it a little bit of a disadvantage. We'll talk more about that later.
All right, yeah. So at the end of this episode, Mobius brought in this variant version of Loki to hunt another variant version of Loki who has been just causing chaos with the TVA.
Yes.
So enter episode 2, The Variant.
The Variant.
So this whole episode, and we're going to kind of skim through some of these episodes in the middle because really the meat of the series was in these last couple episodes.
The meat and the potatoes.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of taters. Taters precious.
Taters precious.
So in the second one, Loki's officially working with Mobius and the TVA to try to hunt down his variant, the other Loki. And it's pretty cool. I mean, this episode was much more of a quasi time detective, time cop episode, like him and Mobius, like a buddy cop kind of thing, doing the research. And this was really Loki realizing, like, oh shit, like the TVA, like this is some serious power.
This some serious shit, man.
Like who are the timekeepers? Who are these people?
Yeah, he's realizing what's going on with them, what they're capable of, while at the same time we get a good buddy cop drama, like you said, which I feel like Falcon and Winter Soldier should have been. They got it right in Loki.
Yeah, I agree. So Loki and Mobius work together, and they finally figure out that the variant is staying hidden by constantly hopping to different apocalypses.
Yes.
Like just end world events. And she can do that because there's no way to detect any disturbances in the timeline, because anything she does or interacts with, the world's ending anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Kaput.
So Loki figures that out. It's pretty genius. I thought that was a kind of a cool plot line,
It was
plot
a little
point.
hard for me to believe that nobody thought of that before, but believable at least. So yeah.
So they end up hunting down this variant of Loki and in 2050 Alabama, which there's this massive hurricane that's going to wipe it out. And turns out it's a female version of Loki, which does not go by Loki.
Yeah.
It's,
I would have liked to see a apocalypse type event from something we lived through. That would have been a little cooler instead of a made up one in the future. But that's nitpicky. So
I mean, we got to see Pompeii. I was going to say we got to see Pompeii.
But like, I don't know, Hurricane Katrina or
maybe that would have hit too close to home.
9/11. That'd be ballsy, but I would have liked it.
Yeah, that would have been oof.
Hiding in the Trade Center. Woo.
Yeah, that would have been
That's
some.
the thing with Marvel, man. They don't take those risks. They hang on to that safety net by their good hand. Their strong hand child.
Let me mix up those mashed potatoes for you.
Yeah.
So
and then we get Lady Loki at the end, which I was all about at first, but go on.
And I don't want to skim over the fact that Lady Loki enchants Hunter B-15, who was a dick to
yes.
like regular Loki in the first episode. And that right there, the whole enchantment thing is a huge plot line in the series. But so at the end of this, Loki ends up encountering Sylvie. So the female Loki, they have the banter back and forth. He ends up following her through a
I think it
time
was
portal.
C20. Sorry to correct you, but I think it was Hunter C20, no?
Was it C20?
Yeah, it was the younger one, with the braids and stuff. She had the life before.
No, she gets B-15 in this too.
Oh, does she get B-15?
Yes, it
So
starts-
we're not talking about the one who went insane.
No.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
Or who allegedly
Allegedly
went insane,
Yeah,
which
okay.
that's what we're going to get into now. So Loki follows her. You know, Mobius now he's on the hook. So episode 3, Lamentus. So
This one was a filler for me.
it kind of was. It kind of was. So they go back. They end up using the Tempad to go to Lamentus. Again, another apocalypse level event that's going to level this planet. But the Tempad runs out of power. And like you said, this whole episode it wasn't filler for me, but it was more character development between these two. It was building the chemistry between Loki and Sylvie.
So here's my problem. Unfortunately, I think there is zero chemistry between Sylvie and Loki, period. I just didn't feel it, didn't see it, and that episode was so boring to me because neither of them... After seeing him and Owen Wilson together, it felt like this took 5 giant steps back in chemistry.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute then. So I agree with you half-heartedly. I agree with you 50% of the way. I think Tom Hiddleston did a much better job portraying his kind of want, need, infatuation with Sylvie. But I don't think Sylvie really... And again, you know, Sylvie is much more guarded. That's within the character.
Yeah.
But I do agree it wasn't...
Even if you're guarded, there are many instances out there where the chemistry can still work in a way. And it's, I don't know, it's almost like magic when it works, you know? There's nothing specific that really, you know, you can point to the writing and the dialogue and the directing, but really it's just about the actors and actresses and the chemistry they have off screen and on screen that comes together to make it feel real. And Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston have that. And what's her face there? Sylvie, played by Sophia
DiMartino.
I don't think it's her fault because I've had problems with her through the whole season. I think it's more how they wrote her than how she played her, and we'll get more into that. But yeah, this was very much a drag for me because I didn't feel it coming from Lady Loki.
Yeah, so they're, again, on this planet. Shit's about to go down. They're trying to find a way to recharge the Tem Pad. They end up sneaking onto a train with a little bit of Loki magic, and you get a bit more character building in there. Loki ends up getting shit-faced. He's like singing, smashing bottles. Another!
Right. One bottle of beer on the wall.
So it was comical too, and they had a couple deep moments, but to me the best part of this episode was towards the end where, you know, especially after the Tem Pad breaks and they're like, shit, how are we going to get off this planet? There is a ship that Sylvie knows of that is going to try to get off this planet, but she knows ultimately it gets destroyed by incoming meteors. But Loki's like, well, maybe we can hijack it and we can change fate.
Yeah.
So at the very end, it's just chaos because everyone's trying to get off this planet. You see the meteor come down, blows the ship up, and they're just like, fuck.
Oh, shit.
And it was a cool kind of moment just seeing them so defeated.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, like we're probably going to die.
Right? They're just, yeah, you get the scene of them together sitting down on the rocks and the giant cloud coming after them, something like Armageddon. And then we
don't want to close my eyes.
And then we get the little incestuous hand touch, like something's happening here. We don't know if it's sister brother, stepsister brother, or girlfriend boyfriend. That's
yeah.
the
There was
range.
some Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
Going on in this
And
series.
it gets worse. And it gets wow.
Wow.
But yeah, that somehow. So did they explain this at the end? That branches the timeline a little bit when she has a moment with Loki, because they explore it, but I don't think they ever actually say what could have happened from it.
So it's them kind of, and this happens in the next episode, what you're mentioning.
Oh, does it?
So and it's called the Nexus event. So now let's get into episode 4, Nexus event. So they're still on Lamentus, and Sylvie starts opening up to Loki and starts explaining, hey, you know, I was abducted as a child. You know, I never even knew what my Nexus event was. It was bullshit. And, you know, Loki, again, they're troubled people.
Yes.
So they can definitely relate to one another. And at this point, they, like you said, they have almost like what is it, like their hands touch or something like that?
Yeah, I think she puts her hand on his hand or knee or his third leg. I can't remember.
So it actually creates a unique branch timeline when that happens. And that's what alerts the TVA that, hey, something's going on. This is how they track them down. Ultimately, it saves them, but it also imprisons them.
Yes.
So they end up getting dragged back to the TVA. And we get the very funny moment of Mobius locking Loki in the time loop with Lady Sif.
And we get Sif back. Yeah, I love Jamie Alexander, and it's been, 6 years since we've seen her? So that was pretty cool.
I think it was actually criminal, like that they didn't use her more.
Yeah, she was one of the, not the first, but one of the first badass women warriors we got in the MCU. Definitely should have used her more.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen her in that Endgame scene.
Yes.
Where they have like all of the...
That would have been cool.
The girl power scene.
Yeah.
That the boys did so much better.
It would have been so much more believable with badass Lady Sif in there.
Oh, Brian, girls get it done. Mm-hmm. So, at this point, they go back, and this is where you can see the cracks start to develop with Mobius's trust in the TVA. So, he meets up with Renslayer, which we haven't talked too much about, played by...
Renslayer.
Gugu Mbatha Raw.
The judge.
Yeah, Ravonna Renslayer, the judge, who I think she did a pretty good job, you know. I liked it. She kept it kind of reserved until it kind of spun a little bit in the end. You're like, oh shit, she's up to no good.
Yeah. Well, she's also hardcore loyal to the TVA too, which always means trouble when you're too much of a loyalist.
Yeah, and you can see the cracks starting to form, and it really starts with, you know, Loki just trying to tell Mobius, like, dude, like, you're a variant, which is what Loki was told by Sylvie.
Yep.
But now it's going from a Loki to Mobius. So Mobius at first is like, there's no way I can trust this.
Yeah, okay, Loki.
But you can tell, like, Mobius is always kind of...
Yeah, because he's
always suspected that something is up.
Right. I mean, he always wanted to drive a jet ski. And
man.
it is...
We're going to talk about that.
You just mentioned the word criminal. We'll talk about it, but something criminal about that scene with the jet ski that we should have gotten.
No, I know.
Anyway, he goes to the judge with a little hesitation. He's like, hey, so...
Tell me about C20.
I was told.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about C20. He starts asking questions. Like you said, the cracks start to show.
Yeah, and you can tell Renslayer does not want him... She's like, yeah, she is trying to steer him away from this.
She's like John Taffer. Shut it down. Shut it down now.
And, at this point, they're going back and forth, and they're having drinks, and he swipes her TemPad, ends up going and ends up finding the interviews with C20, and that's when he realizes, like, oh shit, like, she's lying.
Yeah,
she's absolutely lying. So he goes back, ends up talking to Loki, and they have another kind of almost a heart-to-heart moment, like, okay, like, this is legit. Mobius is like, all right, I'm breaking you out of here. We need to take this down.
Yeah.
As soon as they come out, Renslayer's there with the other people. And at first, you could see Mobius, like, desperately trying to play it off. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Nothing at all.
And I love that moment with Owen Wilson. He did such a good job with, he's like, well, I've been thinking a lot about how, I used to have a life.
Yeah.
Until the TVA took it away from me,
Yep.
I could have been on a jet ski.
Like, it's boiling up in him and he can't hold it in any longer.
And this is where, like, a lot of the shocking moments happened.
Yeah.
In, like, the last 20 minutes of the episode. So he ends up getting pruned.
Right.
By that little, like, the magic glow stick. And instantly, my wife and I were like, no!
I was like, oh, shit!
Actually, she said no! And I went, wow. So I was pretty upset about that. And then... literally, like 10 minutes later, so Loki and Sylvie force Renslayer to take them down to the Timekeepers.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, like, because I'm seeing the Timekeepers, and I kind of turn to my wife, and I'm like, I don't know. They look kind of shitty.
Yeah, that, and if they were real, we wouldn't be seeing them right now in episode 4.
And I'm looking up there, I'm like, I don't know, something with the CGI. I'm like, this just doesn't look that good. Mm-hmm. Turns out it was on purpose.
Yeah, they were animatronics, not CGI.
And it was a very, like, Wizard of Oz moment.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed a little predictable. The Timekeepers were very much a focus. We got to see them very early. Everything leading up to it, you were like, something's up with the Timekeepers.
I mean, they're established in Marvel lore.
Oh, absolutely. But in this show, I just had a feeling. And then when they cut the head off, I'm like, yep, see, there it is.
So all that shit goes down, and they end up taking out they think they're going to take out the Timekeepers. They end up taking out the guards, and then Loki and Sylvie, again, having that kind of heart-to-heart moment, and then Renslayer ends up pruning Loki. And at this point, I'm like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, me too, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, so Owen Wilson's death just kind of became less important now that Loki just got pruned.
Yeah, I mean, I had that in the back of my mind, but then at the same time, I'm like, would Marvel be ballsy enough to do this?
Yeah,
like, arguably the two highest, like, A-lister characters on this show, with still 2 episodes to go, would they take them out for the remainder?
And then I remember the past 23 films, and I'm like, no, no, of course not.
No, we knew they would.
Yeah, no.
So then we actually got a mid-credits scene in here.
Yeah, right.
So, and you get Loki waking up just in an unknown place, and he sees the other Loki variants.
Oh, man. I told you me and you were going to have different feelings on this show, and this was one of those moments where I was like...
So, episode 5, and I'm curious here. We can talk about it as it comes up naturally.
Yeah.
So, Renslayer ends up talking to Sylvie, saying, when Loki was pruned, because she knows she's going to die, so she's trying to stall.
Yeah.
Tells Sylvie, it's like, no. It's like, I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him. I sent him to, like, the void at the end of time. So Sylvie starts saying, all right, well, how do I get there? So they end up talking to Miss Minutes, which, again, voiced by Tara Strong.
Yes.
I loved that character,
Harley
man.
Quinn herself.
Yeah, Bubbles
Wish we
from
saw-
Powerpuff Girls.
yeah.
I mean, so many great voices. by
Tommy
her.
Pickle. Oh, wait, no, wait. Wrong girl. Anyway, I do wish we got to see more of Miss Minutes, and I wish we could have saw her become more. That was a little disappointing.
I bet we'll see more of her in season 2.
Probably. Maybe like come to life type thing.
Which, again, spoiler, there is going to be a season 2.
Rule 34, there'll be porn about Miss Minutes.
I'm so into it.
Into it.
Let's go. So, at this point, they realize Miss Minutes is stalling, and the TVA shows up, and Sylvie is like, all right, Hail Mary time. She ends up pruning herself. Yeah. And going to the void. And at this point, it flashes back, and you see Loki already in the void. And there's this giant goddamn monster cloud thing. I'm like, what is this, Lost?
I thought it was Demon Bear from New Mutants, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, they wouldn't. Okay, they won't. No, all right. But for a split second, I thought they were going to cross over with New Mutants for a minute.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Interesting, but yeah.
But so it's Eliath, who is just destroys everything in the void.
Yeah, just a beast that was created by the chaos of the timeline.
But he gets brought up to speed by Team Loki.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me about this. What's your issue with all these variant Lokis?
So I didn't necessarily have an issue right away. I just knew that it was Easter egg fodder. It was just going to be there for the YouTube videos, the podcast, how many Easter eggs were in this show. It was just going to turn out to be them not really needing to be there at all. It was just a little bit of fun, which it completely ended up being. You could argue one of them were a little bit important, but otherwise...
Classic Loki, man. Richard Grant.
Yes.
And classic Loki was awesome.
And seeing him busting out those powers and building a goddamn city out of the illusion power he has was badass.
Not any city, man.
No, yeah, Asgard.
He built Asgard.
Asgard, of course, yeah. But otherwise, it was just... So, all right, I'll fast forward ahead. They ended up being nowhere near important. And at the same time, you're trying to tell me Loki, the most mischievous character in the MCU, you have a ton of different variants of them, and none of them betray, manipulate, or run away in that end battle of episode 5. Because I was expecting some of them to try and spin it to their advantage.
They did.
I mean,
that totally happened.
They were when?
You had what are you talking about?
What do you mean?
They completely backstabbed each other. So you had one of the original 3 Lokis, the ones with the hammer, the gold hammer. Mm-hmm. You know, he brought in the other Tom Hiddleston Loki, the President Loki, the one in the suit that came in with the helmet.
Oh, he brought it. So I think I might have missed a chunk of this.
Oh, you missed a big chunk
because I'm talking about
that totally happened.
At the end of the episode, they're all like, "We're with you. We're not gonna run away." Blah blah blah.
I mean, that was the very select few. Also, shout out to Crocodile Loki, or Gator Loki. He was the best.
I didn't know how to feel about that. I kind of liked it, but at the same time, it was like...
It was
so weird.
It was so campy. I loved it.
It was, and it might hit for me.
We even got Frog Thor
tomorrow, but Frog Thor I liked. Yeah, I was happy about that. But it just felt like we should have seen more mischief and more...
They all betrayed each other in that fight.
At the end. Oh. At the end, when he's like, we're all doing this for the greater good. You guys don't have to join me. And everyone's like, no, we're here for it. You know,
I didn't have as much of an issue with it as you did, especially with the Lokis that he brought with him, or that were with him at the time, because you had classic Loki, who has seen some shit, and he has had the character development. He's also been alone
like I said,
for a long
with him,
time.
I'm happy with.
But
absolutely.
Kid Loki was also technically the only Loki we know of that killed Thor, that killed his brother.
Right.
And that's why, like, a lot of the other Lokis were kind of subservient to him, because a lot of them tried that.
I wanted him to be like Joffrey Loki, you know, like, fuck it all up.
But he was cool. And then, again, dude, Crocodile Loki. I
The
love
only
that.
time I liked him when they threw him in the fight to
And he bit the hand off?
bit the hand that feeds.
And then,
Yeah, so I missed a little chunk in the middle there, but I still hold my opinion at the end of the episode where just... And not to mention, this episode still felt like filler. It was like, here's some Easter eggs for all you guys to have fun with. Here's a big bad monster that just was mysteriously created from chaos and time with no explanation. And we did get Old Man Loki showing off his powers and showing that Loki could be a lot stronger than he is right now. So that played a good part, you know. But overall, when you told me, you were like, dude, see, episode 5 was awesome. I was expecting a lot more.
Interesting.
Just saying, yeah.
I liked it a lot. And you also had Mobius teaming up with Sylvie, picking her up in the pizza car.
Yeah, it was good, you know. There were some good scene moments, but at the same time, it almost very little propelled the story at all.
Which, Marvel, you had an opportunity there. 2 opportunities. Like, A, you could have had Sylvie, when she landed, fall in the water and have him pull up on a jet ski to save her. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But
if we got one scene with a jet ski, it
but realistically, what they should have done is either they should have put him in a red Corvette or like a red racing car.
Yeah.
And have him pull up and have him like do his thing and just go ka-chow.
Ka-chow. Oh my god.
Lightning McQueen, man.
Well, yeah, why not throw some kind of... if you're doing an episode of Easter eggs...
It's a multiverse, so
why
in
not
one of those
do it? Yeah.
multiverses, he's Lightning McQueen.
Right.
From the Pixar movies, we know. So,
and
I mean,
just buy out Pixar. You're already Marvel, you know, and that would have been perfect.
I think that would have been amazing. But in any case, so
yeah.
he brings, you know, we get the reunion between the Loki crew plus Mobius and Sylvie. And that's when Sylvie drops the bomb of, I'm going to enchant the beast.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And like you mentioned, that's when you get the whole scene of old Loki, like, stepping up, doing Asgard, distracting them. And that was a badass way to go out, man.
It was.
You know, glorious purpose.
Yeah. And this kind of brings me to my second point. Loki, the main character, seemed to get overshadowed the whole season. Because I think Owen Wilson, Old Man Loki, Crokey.
It's amazing. I loved it.
Arguably Kang. But we'll talk about that later. It seemed like he was an afterthought in a lot of these episodes as well.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. To a degree, I can see that. But we also got the scene here that I don't want to gloss over of... And again, Loki, he's been... His entire life, he hasn't really trusted anyone. And again, the trickster god.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever really had, outside of Thor, like a true friend. And even Thor to a degree. Like,
except maybe his mother.
Yeah, maybe, even though he got it killed. But
yeah.
So you get that before Mobius goes back to the TVA to try to like burn them down from the inside.
Burn the bitches.
He like embraces him in a hug.
Yes.
He's like, "Thank you, my friend."
Yeah, he sticks out his hand and he's like, no, we're huggers here.
Yeah.
No, that was emotional. That was good. And seeing him use the enchantment power with Sylvie was really cool too. So there were some cool scenes, but overall episode 3 and 5, I think, could have completely disappeared and we'd still get the same season we got with only 4 episodes.
Yeah, so they enchant Goliath and he opens the way and you see a citadel beyond the void.
Yeah,
and
I thought we were going to see that city in the quantum realm for a second. It looked like it real quick.
It very much looked like the quantum realm. And
which it wasn't, or maybe it could have been, but we didn't get any confirmation.
Yeah, after this episode was over, I hopped on Reddit and I was kind of posting back and forth with a couple different people in the Loki subreddit.
Yeah,
just kind of theorizing about what this may be, and there were a shit ton of theories. Yeah. Quantum realm was one of the bigger ones. The list goes on.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Yeah, I've seen some of them, and like there's a theory that each episode represented an infinity stone because of the color tone and the theme of the episode, you know.
Oh, interesting.
Episode 3 was kind of orange. It was a soul stone. That's when Loki finds out he really has a soul. It's a cool theory if you look it up, you know, but there's a lot of shit out there about Loki.
Episode 6, the finale, which this is the freshest in our minds. So this is the one we're going to spend some time talking about.
Yeah.
So it's literally called For All Time. And This was kind of the
For all time, always.
For all time, always. Thank you. And this was a very interesting way to end a series. Because
that's one way to call it.
Because you had episode 5 that was a bit more action packed, and episode 6 was really not much action at all.
No.
It was all dialogue.
Small little moments, action moments, surrounded by dialogue, yeah.
Yeah, so, Loki and Sylvie, they end up going into this citadel, end up walking in, and then boom, Miss Minutes shows up. And this has been like a pet theory on the Loki subreddit, that Miss Minutes has been the big bad all along.
Yeah.
So the second that happened, I was like, oh my God, please let this happen.
Yeah.
Because it would have been amazing.
Tara Strong just...
And I love Tara Strong. And there's, like you said before, there is no way they're not going to use Miss Minutes more.
Yeah, no, you don't hire a voice actor like Tara Strong unless you're going to use her.
Hugely talented.
Yep.
But she comes and she says, well, I'm here with, what's his name? The He Who Remains. She's like,
Well, she doesn't even say that, I don't think. She's just like, he wants you guys here.
She does it. She does at the end.
Okay, all right, because I know it's just, he has some big things in store for you guys.
Yeah, and she tries to, I don't want to say manipulate them, but offers them a deal.
Yeah.
Like says, hey, he has the ability to power to take you both together, plop you back into a timeline, and boom, done.
Yeah. What if you got the Infinity Gauntlet, Loki? What if you controlled everything?
And that's showing Loki's growth. Is he says no. He turns it down because not what he wants to do. I mean, honestly, at this point, all he wants to do is be with Sylvie. Yeah, and that's pretty apparent. But
yeah.
I had been able to tell even leading up to this that when push came to shove, I knew Sylvie wasn't truly. She didn't feel the same.
No,
I don't think.
Yeah, no. You could definitely get a feeling from it, and at the same time, I'm still not sold on Loki's redemption at this point. So I looked it up. It was only a week and a half by the time this moment came. And he jumped from a timeline where he was trying to murder New York City for power. Sure. So in a week and a half, we're supposed to believe that his whole redemption arc turned him from mischievous psycho who wants to take over the universe to somebody who offered the Infinity Gauntlet says no, which I can possibly believe because of Sylvie. But then, with Mobius and the TVA and his decision, which we're about to talk about soon, I'm like, I don't know. I can't hop on board with that. Not yet.
Yeah, and I mean, he also got years of growth lumped into about 5 to 10 minutes of being able to watch it.
And I thought that was going to be good, but it was such a drastic change by the end of the season that I was like, But then we find the elevator shows up, the doors open, and we find out that He Who Remains is there.
Yeah, so they end up denying that. Elevator opens up, and it's He Who Remains. And who is it? Freaking Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
Terrific actor.
Yes, he is.
Five Bloods. I mean, he's been in like...
Yeah, no, he's been in some good stuff, which is why I was surprised. I was disappointed with the way he played this part.
I loved it.
Really?
I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I thought it was annoying.
Yeah, and, at first, it struck me as very, I don't want to say off-putting.
Yeah.
But he was so, like, almost like a cartoon character, like zany, like overflowing with charisma, but to the point that it was almost too much.
Right. I can't find the word for it. Overacted,
snickering,
definitely.
like eating the apple. And that's what it came off as, overacting at first. But then you come to realize that he is so goddamn excited because he has been there for God knows how, like millennia or whatever.
All he says is, I'm old.
And we're finally, he's finally getting to the point where he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And he's ecstatic to find that out.
Not only that, but we will most definitely see different versions of how he can act. So I'm excited to see that.
We're gonna talk about that. So they go in and they sit down with He Who Remains, and he even says, he's like, I've been called many things, a king, a conqueror, spoilers. and he never refers to himself as Kang, but he is Kang. And this was one of the theories that we knew Kang the Conqueror was the main villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Coming out in 2023, and now it makes perfect sense. So this series, this Loki series, is the next immediate future. Like this is the next phase of Marvel.
Yeah, this is the setup, and it was mind-blowing that they introduced it in a TV show. You know?
Yeah, and it is that they would introduce it in a TV show, not on the big screen, but on the silver screen. And it's so funny because as much as they kept talking about this will be the end, I mean, this is the beginning.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of what Marvel is going to be now for the next 5 years.
10 years. At least 5 years, at the most 10.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
It's going to be a 5 to 10 year window where Kang is going to be the main protagonist. And like you said, it's going to be many different versions of Kang.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because I think Jonathan Majors is a terrific actor.
Absolutely.
And
I think he can pull it off.
And this one that we saw, like a lot of people were like, well, this isn't Kang the Conqueror. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
not supposed to be yet.
It is a version of him. And it is the version of him that has been trying to stop all of like the other shitty bad versions of him from wreaking havoc across the timelines. And they have that back and forth. And then, you have Loki. You can tell Loki is like, we need to slow down. Like, what if he's telling the truth? And Sylvie is just hell-bent on ending this.
Oh, that pissed me off so much. It's like, it was just such a cliche. I was really hoping for more depth to Sylvie, but it was really just a revenge mission that we've seen 100 times before.
Yeah.
It would have been better if both of them could have stopped and been like, listen, this is the bigger picture at hand right now. We need to consider it. And she was just like, nah. No, instantly dismissed it. Didn't want to deal with it. Just fuck the universe. She acts like she cares about people and the people in the TVA, at least to some degree. Oh, you're all variants. You should all know the truth, blah, blah, blah. But when push came to shove, she didn't give a shit about anybody but her revenge and herself. And that really disappointed me at the end.
Yeah, and I think, that kind of ties into the conversation they had at the end where they are still both flawed.
Yeah.
In their own ways, where she, unfortunately, can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
She can't. That's part of her character. That's part of her being a Loki.
Yeah.
And then Loki can't be trusted. So it's a very yin-yang kind of thing where he's pleading with her to believe him, trust in him.
Yeah.
Yet she can't trust him because she can't trust anyone and he can't be trusted. So it reminded me of, I even made a note, back in ancient Greece, Cassandra, the story of Cassandra,
yes.
who was originally gifted by the god Apollo, who she could speak true prophecies. She could see the future, and she would plead with people to try to better them, to save them.
Yeah.
But the gift came with a curse, so she could speak truths, but her curse was she would never be believed by anyone.
No one would believe it.
No one would ever believe her, even though she was telling the truth and trying to help people.
Yeah, I love Greece and ancient Greece, and I remember hearing that story once or twice.
And like watching this, and when they made that whole comment, that back and forth, it really reminded me of that story.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it was interesting. And I think, with Jonathan Majors' character here of Kang, explaining that what is going to happen. And if this happens, I mean, it's going to be insanity.
No, absolutely.
This is leading directly into, obviously, the multiverse of madness. It's already been confirmed now that Loki is joining that.
Yes.
So it'll be Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and Loki. Plus, you're getting Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yep.
No Way Home later this year.
No Way Home, yeah.
And they're already talking multiverse now and that. So this is going to be a very, very interesting couple of years for Marvel properties.
Definitely.
And I'm on board for it. But
the way this series ended, I am totally on board for. And I wish I could credit the YouTuber I heard this from. But it would have been really cool if Doctor Strange, the new movie, was named something else, like Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, and then at the end of this series, they're like coming, see Loki next in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Like they hid the name until this, because it obviously opens up that movie.
I mean, how cool would it have been if Marvel had and they do have a lot of foresight. I mean, how cool would it have been if they gave all of their movies coming out, like they seem like they were being so like apparent and open with it. They gave them all placeholder names,
right?
And then the second this episode came out,
that's kind
within
of
like that week, all of a sudden, all of the episode names change, or the movie names change.
That's on a bigger scale of what I was trying to say, but yeah, and that's what some guy that it would have been so cool. And there's more theories, but let's get to the end of this episode.
Yeah. So they also, we mentioned, they had the kiss,
dude. That kiss was more awkward than if Luke and Leia kissed after they found out they were sister and brother. I was like, oh my goodness.
I'll actually agree with you here. It didn't feel natural.
No,
like we've all seen plenty of on-screen kisses with either you have the chemistry or you don't.
Yeah,
and this is again nothing against Sylvie's actor or actress.
No,
I thought she did a good job. And again, we know Tom Hiddleston kills it, but it felt awkward. It felt forced. And
if they honed in on a brother-sister type relationship between these two, I think it would have worked wonders for their chemistry.
Well, it is. It's just an Alabama brother and sister relationship.
So only Marvel could take it one step further
Alabama.
From incest to something even worse, because you're basically found a way to fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you're not even doing your sibling. You're doing yourself in another world. Somehow that's worse. But if they could have found a way to play off the sibling chemistry, I think it would have worked better for them.
Do you think like they have like end of the year like Marvel Christmas parties with all the actors and actresses, and like Kevin Feige's there and he's talking. Maybe Tom Hiddleston got like shit faced at the end.
Yeah,
and he's like, go fuck yourself, Feige. And Feige's kind of like,
yeah, right. I can't. You already did, Tom.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Maybe we'll write about that.
Absolutely.
But, so yeah, she ends up killing. Sylvie ends up, after she uses a temp pad, blasts Loki back to the TVA.
She says, oh, what was her line? So she kisses him and then says, yeah, but I'm not you, and then kicks him out, right?
Yeah. And she ends up killing He Who Remains, and at this point, the branch timelines start going crazy.
Well, that ominous see you soon, too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see shooting back to the TVA, it's chaos. Everybody's going nuts. Loki's now running around trying to find Mobius.
Yeah.
And he's watching, and you can see all the branch timelines going crazy. Mobius is back with B-15, and Loki ends up running up and warning them, saying, hey, I found you guys, it's all our fault.
I found the guy. Who's the guy that's going to happen, and blah, blah, blah,
just regurgitating it all. And then I thought one of the awesome twists at the end, Mobius goes, who are you?
Yeah.
And that's when...
Wow, who are you?
And that's when, Loki looks around, and it's still the TVA, but there's the giant statue of Kang.
Yeah.
So, he...
And he warned them,
Yes, Sylvie did send him back to the TVA, but it's too late. The timelines are already changing and branching.
That's how motherfucking time travel works, yo.
And then again, post-credit scene, Loki will return for season 2. So this is the only, out of the 3 we've gotten, so we know WandaVision's done, we know Falcon and the Winter Soldier's done, but Loki will be back for a season 2.
I feel like that wasn't such a surprise. Like, people are raving about it, but I kind of had a feeling we were going to get a season 2 of Loki no matter what. People have been raving about it since episode 1, really.
I didn't. I really didn't. With some of the star power they pulled in, like Tom Hiddleston is a... I don't want to call him an A-lister in the Marvel universe, but he's at least a B-lister.
I think he would be an A-lister if he wasn't tied to the Marvel universe. He probably would have done so many more projects. Got his,
Yeah, he's done a lot of good shit though. He's a good actor.
But yeah.
But in any case, I thought that they would do the typical more one and done, and then move on to the moving him into the movies again.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think this in of itself is very telling, that they would This is the birth of the new phase of Marvel happened in this finale.
Yes.
And they're now greenlighting it for season 2. So Loki is going to be a keystone in what happens in like the next 5 to 10 years of Marvel.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, yeah.
And I'm hoping they branch out too. Like I want to see. I
Well,
would love to see like Mobius, Owen Wilson's Mobius. I'd love to see him in like some of the films now.
Here's one of my theories.
On a jet ski.
Does this open up the What If series? This is the beginning of not only Multiverse of Madness and everything else, but also this is how we get all the individual stories from the What If series that we have coming out as well. You know?
Maybe.
And yeah, that's one thing I wish we saw at the end too. Maybe a cutscene of just like old Mobius on a jet ski out in the Caribbean or something, and maybe gets like teleported from, or the Mobius that got stolen to be in the TVA. Just some random scene at the end in the credits, him riding a jet ski and him disappearing in the jet ski, just drifting off in the water, and you're like, fuck, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's going to happen. There are petitions online.
He never got that damn jet ski, dude.
To get Mobius on his jet ski. So the fact that there's a season 2, I'm holding out hope. I think it will happen. And Marvel, they have their finger on the pulse when it comes to the community.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they will listen. So I could see it happening.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anything else, Brian, before we get into our random review scores?
No, I think we kept up with it good while we crossed the episode. So, yeah.
So I believe last week for Black Widow, you gave your review score first. So I'll kick things off this week. So I enjoyed this. Compared to WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So in a nutshell, if I'm looking at those 3, I still think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the weakest out of the 3. I
agree.
I was not, I don't want to say I hated it, but you know, it was just, I had to get through it, and that's what Marvel has created. All of the content that comes out, if you don't keep up on it, guess what? You're not going to know what the hell's going on, especially if you're not a comic reader.
Yes.
And it was okay. I loved WandaVision. I know you and I differed a little bit on that. I thought very, very highly of WandaVision.
Yep.
And I enjoyed this as well, but I didn't enjoy this as much as I enjoyed WandaVision. I really didn't. I thought it was good. Tom Hiddleston, I thought, killed it as Loki as usual. Owen Wilson's Mobius, great chemistry there. Sylvie was fine, but I do agree with Brian. The chemistry was not there with Tom Hiddleston's Loki for whatever reason. It could have been the writing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But all of that being said, I'm going to give this and I did like it. I honestly did enjoy watching this, and it opened up a new branch of Marvel. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. You know, I thought it was solid. It wasn't like, I couldn't get up to a 9 because it wasn't like, holy shit, this has been amazing. But I think it's solid, so I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10.
All right, good, cool. I know your problem about getting it up, so that makes sense. Sorry, I had to. You put it there. You put it there, and I just had to take it. All right. I expected that.
My name is Ed, man. I got the ED.
8.5 I put on you right away. I was waiting to see if you would do it, and I had a feeling that you'd get it.
Read me like a book.
I read you like a book. And that binder, man. No. All right, so you did explain a lot. Not only the chemistry between Sylvie and Loki. Actually, let me begin with all 3 of the shows. You're right. Falcon, Winter Soldier, weakest. And I do still like WandaVision more than I like Loki. I think until the last episode of WandaVision, I was loving it, and that kind of knocked it down for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
In Loki, they had a couple filler episodes, and not every episode hit for me, so that kind of knocks it a little bit below. I love the future that Loki opens up for the MCU, but Sylvie and Loki's chemistry was just really off to me. Didn't work. Not only that, but Sylvie's villainy, if you want to call it that, felt very cliche, one-dimensional, didn't really add a lot except to reveal that the TVA were just variants. That was like the one part she really played. And, I mean, that's not fair because she killed Kang at the end too, so But the twist at the end when she couldn't get in line with Loki really threw me off as well. That and Loki's redemption happened really quick, whereas Sylvie's couldn't happen just as quick. That felt a little off. The filler episodes were cool, but they were also filler, so I enjoyed it like you. Honestly, you explained it really good. I enjoyed it. I like what it opens up for the MCU, but I didn't enjoy it as much as WandaVision. I think I gave that an 8.
I don't think you were at an 8.
No?
I think you were
Did
in
I
the
reach
7s.
an 8?
No,
I think
you were
I
in
gave
the
it
7s
above
on
a
WandaVision.
7.5, but below an 8.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to do
I was in the 9s on WandaVision.
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to... My score on Loki would be a 7.5.
Yeah.
I did... It was entertaining. I liked it. I don't think... I didn't rave about it as much as a lot of people out there do, but 7.5 seems fair for it.
Yeah, that's solid. So
Yeah.
average, it's about an 8 between us both. So I think that's fair. It's fair. And I hear where you're coming from on some of it. But all in all, it was good. It was good. I thought I liked it.
I reflected, and Taylor was like, "Do you want to watch Loki tonight?" I'm just kind of like, "It's late, and I don't really feel like I need to right now." That was episode 3 and then 4. I was like, I'll catch up on it later. So I reflected on that. I'm like, I never really felt the need to jump on Disney Plus and be like, I have to see this episode, which is why I thought of that score.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, I mean, we've seen the first 3 Marvel shows now. They're now completed. We know we have, Hawkeye is coming out later this year. Anything else announced on
TV?
Yeah, for the TV. I know Hawkeye's coming out, but
I mean, what if?
There's what if, but I mean,
year,
beyond that.
I don't think so, yeah. No. Those are the 2 really next ones, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's about all we have to say about Loki.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say before we sign off, and I know it's with your review score maybe a little bit more, but there are some people out there that are more so saying that this entire thing, this entire show, was more of just a device just to get to the next phase of the MCU.
So that's kind of how I feel about it, but that's how I feel about Black Widow as well.
Yeah.
But with Black Widow, it was just a little bit more fun of a journey. Whereas Loki, it was just kind of up and down.
Yeah.
And I think they're right. I think the whole thing was set up to cross over TV and movies and set up Phase 5. That's what it is, right?
I've lost track of the phases at this point, man. It's crazy. Marvel's just printing money at this point.
The way Black Widow ended, the way Loki ended, I am very excited for what we're getting in the future.
As am I. DC, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's the most disappointing part of all of this. We're DC fans. Fuck us, DC.
Come on, DC, step it up.
Yeah.
Hopefully Robert Pattinson's Batman's decent.
I have a feeling it will be.
Yeah, I think so. All right, randos, this has been Fandom at Random. We are out. We'll be back, though. Woo. Same time, same place. Adios.
Wow.